Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on understanding the impact or the influence of a relationship with someone who lacks empathy and inability to share feelings with others. This is an exemplary characteristic and trait of someone who is narcissistic, someone who is really pathologically self-centered and ends up really hurting others and does not really feel bad about it. And, that person might have been you, that you had encountered this individual, all good and all bad wrapped into one. So, understanding that someone who is narcissistic or someone who lacks empathy, they don't have really activated those mirror neurons in the brain that begin to be activated or stimulated when you're sharing and engaging with another person. Whether you're getting your groceries, if you're doing that with another person, a lot of these people have these self-checkout these days. God knows, you might not even check out with somebody, but, you encounter somebody at the checkout and they're asking you about something and the price of this, and they're exchanging empathy. They're there. They can feel your feelings. I don't want that or this. Or if you're shopping or you're just talking at a business meeting with fair individuals, they're listening. They're processing you. They are exchanging. They're sharing your feelings. They might not have to agree or disagree, but they have enough empathy to see the other sides. Probably a good quality, and definitely you see that in CEOs. That ability. If someone who is psychopathic and a CEO, they do this very fearlessly. They really don't have any sort of, no sweat. They just don't feel fear and anxiety, even in tense situations. So a psychopath really just seems very cool, calm, and collected. I mean, just even when most people would be agitated or up in arms or something, other than, but, it's important to understand that lack of empathy means that they don't have an ability to relate to you. It's not your fault. It's not your deficit. It's not you being a poor communicator, someone who's incompetent. All the things that they will make you out to be are often because they lack empathy. So what better way to handle the situation than just to get out of it? So they kind of Houdini themselves, out of there just like poof, and, hey, what are you going to do? You are going to learn, like in the privacy of these videos, the cause that has created this effect. When we really look at science and understanding the chain of events, from my understanding and in the journey, you have to understand the chain of events. Understanding the cause that led to the effect in your life, and understanding which one is the cause and which one is the effect. So getting it sorted out, just like getting your laundry sorted out, you're going to put the jeans over here and the white t-shirts here. You need to get things sorted out and not get it mixed up. If you put everything together before, that was fine and dandy. Don't worry about it. We don't want to do that now. We want to get it sorted out. So what does lack of empathy look like and feel like? When somebody is just not vibing with you. It might even feel cold in the room. It might feel prickly in the room. You might not even exchange eye contact, even though you're having an all-out conversation. They don't give you the respect. Even though they're not saying out loud, I don't respect you, you're not worth, the pint of salt, in the floor beneath me, they will exude that. It's an absence of feeling. It's an absence of closeness. It's an absence of warmth. That person was not very friendly. You might call it rude. You might call it snobbish. You might call it sneer. You might call it demanding. You might call it entitlement. You might call it arrogant. You might call it evasive. Just kind of tiptoeing out of there. Once again, Houdiniing themselves out of the picture. I'm just going to escape, stage left, just, and really, and then, but there's the I thought, and then, there's the splitting of ways, the devalue and discard. And usually part of the outplay of lack of empathy is to then treat you with in a very untrusting manner, and also that they're sort of unforgiving. In other words, just this is sort of a forever no go. In other words, they just lay it on heavy, that it just it's just a permanent failure. It just makes it's exuded that way, that, and usually the disappointment is on the source of the supply, because they're fantasizing about some other opportunity. These are your fantasizers. These are your gamers. These are your hustlers, I guess. I never understand that term, and I still don't. But it's just and I know we have another viewer has asking some different questions about that. We'll cover that later. But they just are, and when you get psychopathic, it's you get very much a con person, very scary, stealing other people's identities, doing strange things to just haunt them. Anyway, but the main thing, the problem with the outplay of the lack of empathy is there's just sort of this unforgiving nature, a sense of unforgiving. It's unforgivable who you are, or it's unforgivable, this relationship is unforgivable. And they just have this sort of guilt that they lay on like a cold slate of lead, and it's just, it imparts a feeling of disappointment in you, and that's chronic and ongoing, and, kind of like sending you away for the worst. I mean, that's a narcissistic let go. I mean, they're just acting like they are ashamed of you, but they really lack empathy. They can't just be a grown-up and just, hey, this, that, or whatever. I mean, they just don't have empathy, so they're missing, they're missing a piece in there. The puzzle ain't complete. You got a hole, and it's lack of empathy. And they're very resistant to discussion, of normal things, and, because they're just not on level. They're up in their fantasy. They're up in their grandiosity. They're, planning their next espionage, taking over their, doing whatever. There's usually a grandiosity or entitlement that they feel that they just fly off into, and, you can't really reach them when you're there. Sometimes they share it with you, but usually, with the lack of empathy then comes that just discard and just feeling, with the lack of warmth. So there's usually a callousness. You're not going to hear, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, just like normal, like just, hey, it didn't work out. Let's be human. Can these people feel human? I think oftentimes they don't like to feel that way. I think that feeling scares them to be a human being. They want to be the champion. They want to be the winner. They want to be the victor. They want to be the show off. They want the admiration. They want to downplay others and be clear. You're in the stands and I'm on the stage. They have this separation, energy exuding from them. So it's, that's what lack of empathy will feel like. There's an energy that you can feel exuding, that is absent. It's the absence of empathy. So that's what you're feeling, which is, if someone, it's a lack of feeling, then it's the polar opposite. There is no feeling. It is cold. There is nothing to touch, grasp, relate to. Scary. It's like a black hole. It's like a Niagara Falls of negativity. Whoa. If you're in the basket about to go over the Niagara Falls of negativity, back away. They are like that negative waterfall, just ready to whisk you away, and it is not comfortable. It is dark, cold, damp, miserable. The water heater ain't working over there. The heart pump ain't on. It is cold. So you got to realize that's how they flow. That's who they are. That's their alignment. And so it is. And it is what it is, what it is. and so it is. And so then you reach an acceptance. Once you kind of refresh in your mind a couple times, you can understand what lack of empathy looks like. So if you kind of remove your subjectivity from that, because you get too closely involved, too emotionally involved, and their lack of emotion is the problem. They are not emotionally available. There ain't emotion there to connect with. You can feel, there's going to be a distance, and it's going to be with, I'm sorry, whatever it is that they're exuding, which is fine, and let it go with grace, and let it go with harmony, and let it go with gratitude, because I think the greatest gift of the relationship is realizing the gift of empathy that you own. They just gave you the gift of turning on the love light to your own empathy. In other words, you can recognize and heed yourself and respect yourself in a much better light that you give to yourself. So instead of giving it all to the narcissist or all to the combination of the vibration of the two of you, that whole vibration, it's a different vibration when you've separated from their negativity, and so you can pick it up, you can tone it down, you can, light it up, and irradiate yourself in that space. It can be sacred, it can be supple, it can be nurturing. It can be your forever space, someplace that you claim for your own, in your being, that you don't have to, you like to grow in and be in and see in and know in, and, release the inhibitors. Because if you're in a relationship with a narcissist who has a lack of empathy, you're going to have to inhibit your own empathy in your own mirror neurons. That is also not going to be able to play or be excited or stimulated in the brain while you're in the relationship. So you're going to be like in a subdued, really non-authentic space. And, you're going to start to crave authenticity and realness and just being yourself and not being afraid, intimidated, judged, and having to defend yourself, round the clock, because something's coming out of left field or the stands, where all of a sudden, something is up or it's just uncomfortable. The lack of empathy is just, it can be sort of, it can feel like a sentencing, when they just sort of, and we were saying before, that the lack of empathy is they're not able to relate to your feelings. So they'll say things like, you're unbelievable. Like I think that for a lot of people who lack empathy, maybe who are closer to psychopathic and really don't have, who don't have a conscience, but a true level of lack of empathy, I think they experience really the emotions of others as probably artificial, because they probably can't relate to really the genuineness of others. They just can't pick it up on their radar. They don't got no sensors. They don't got no heat waves. Their microwave coil is just, not seeing things. They must see things in a whole different energetic space. Like, why do you guys get excited for each other, or share certain things, and they're like, we're the cool group who are just too cool for school, and definitely the psychopath can just, they just sort of see right through emotions. They think they view it as problematic, like a disease that all people have. You guys have that emotion disease. Look at all that, all the sentimentality, all the art it makes you do, all the, relationships, all the hot chocolate. I mean, you guys are just slowed down. Like, you're just letting all that bog you down. You don't. So they view things completely different, like a whole different X-ray, 5G vision, where they're like, oh my God, that guy is so weak. He's hugging that girl. Like, he's got to be man up and just get what he wants and stop trying to be so careful. And, all this consciousness, about being a proper and a gentleman, and being, soft when it's right to be soft, and, being firm when it's right to be firm, and relaxed when it's okay to be relaxed, having that balance in that center. But see, lack of empathy, they're going to throw the others off. So you get deprived of that energetic stimulation in your mind and heart. So you begin to feel that lack of energy. It's a lack of heart. You're not able to stimulate that area of your being. Your heart has like 80,000 like watts of energy. You have so much energy emanating from the heart area. You can probably feel it on yourself when you go like this. I mean, I can feel it on mine. I can see where it extends about right here. And it's only maybe 2 feet. I mean, but it's just a good, strong feeling. I mean, I can feel a pull. And see, your subconscious is running the show. So your subconscious is allowing you to go without evaluating yourself. So when you're able to talk and host a conversation or talk about art or talk about the news or your kids or yourself, and you're able to just flow, you're then living closer to your subconscious where people then can most pick up with you empathetically. That's the easiest channel to connect with others empathetically, when you're open and honest and you're in your subconscious, devoid of that ego trying to be combative. And oftentimes there is no voice, it's only that subconscious voice, because your subconscious knows what it's going to do like several seconds before it does it. So it's like a car that has an engine. So when you're in that and with others and just being yourself, you are igniting empathy. You're filling your being with aliveness. You are stimulating pleasure centers of the brain. You're kind of becoming you and your energy alignment and who you want to be are becoming one. There's an okayness, and I'm okay and you're okay, like that book back in the 70s. But if you're in sort of a parting ways, or sort of in a half relationship, stagnant relationship with someone who is narcissistic, they are going to be very unemotional, unforgiving, and distrusting. What's very interesting is that's how they cope with breakups. It's, once again, it always stunned me. As a child, I had this really great girlfriend, beautiful girl, beautiful home, beautiful parents. But when they fight, boy, I had never seen any two parents fight like they did. I mean, it was loud, it was long, it was emotional. And, this is how people deal when they are angry. So some people, they just get very escalated. The amount of reaction is undue to the situation at hand. It's like an escalated reaction, a overreaction. And so, that can also be like the narcissistic rage, which develops out of a lack of empathy, meaning it's just their way of coping. That's their style. That's how they do it. It's not a reflection of you. It's like you're a trigger. They lack empathy. So they have, and in that place, it's just sort of that mistreatment of you that, you can't be trusted. You are a disappointment. And they tend to be very resistive to being questioned or being challenged. And I don't want to say being criticized, because most people don't have a sort of playful criticism with a narcissist. They might for some time, but eventually, the criticism will be real for that narcissist. So it's very rough usually where it breaks off. So the lack of empathy also, so if they're not able to connect with you, then it's going to be something else. So rather than having that functional part of yourself stimulated, you're going to have the dysfunctional part of yourself stimulated. You're going to have to cope. You're going to remain unsettled. You're going to remain unheard. You're going to remain unfelt, and you're going to feel something is missing, something is not right, something has stopped abruptly, and you don't know how to get it started again. Then it becomes, a procrastination phase, a period of not knowing, how to pick up empathy then for yourself, which perhaps you've been denied, and that's stimulating life. It's when you are with others who have empathy, it stimulates life. And it stimulates sharing, and it stimulates happiness and function and trust. You have to have trust that you're not going to, throw somebody under the bus. You have empathy. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Narcissists aren't really thinking like that. They're like, do unto others as you need them to do unto you. I mean, I don't know what they do, but whatever it is, can be very demanding of others and sarcastic, etc. But to be, and then also act, I would say, sort of resentful. A lack of empathy, if they are not able to connect, then they sort of project that and show that they resent, they sort of project a resentment. And just because you have feelings and they can't connect, they view it as sort of ostentation or overreaction, or something that is they can't handle. They don't have empathy. They can't handle it. They are lacking emotional intelligence. Like, have you ever seen, people just a narcissistic rage just freak out? Like, they're an adult and they kind of think it's comical, but it's kind of like, they don't manage anger. They don't manage their emotions. They lack empathy. And so they kind of are in their own little chamber. I always think of it kind of like a cocoon, and that you just hope that they will come out and be more human. Who knows if that ever happens? So, and then there's that feeling, if they don't have empathy, then they're ashamed of you. Like if you're sick, rather than having empathy, do you want some soup? Do you want a back rub? Do you want a heat pad? They're just like, you're quarantined. They're like, they do this to you and then they walk away. They're not very, nurturing. They are lacking empathy. If you think of someone who is nurturing, that is someone who has empathy. So to also understand the lack of empathy, you can look at the abundance of empathy. So just like you might have had a great school nurse who sat you down, looked at you when you had a fever, took your blood pressure, gave you a Band-Aid, called your mom if you got a bee sting, someone who is right there with you, a warm, kind, compassionate, simple lady or man. The person had empathy. They could listen to you. They go, oh my God, it hurt that bad. Oh my God, like you are really dizzy. You need to stay in the hospital one more day. Like you feel heard and represented. As you guys know, when I had that neck surgery, OMG, man, I am like, I don't want, I want this, to be handled. And the nurses there had great empathy. They're like, you're dizzy, this, you need to still to rest. And I'm going to tell the doctor. And he was going to give a pushback, but it was necessary. I mean, they had empathy. They knew what to do. They knew how to identify and diagnose what you're going through and help you. So it could be talked out. It could be executed. With a narcissist who has lack of empathy, you're not going to get that sort of collaboration. You're not going to get that continuity. You're not going to get that being able to carry over, and a little bit of grinding away and then flowing, and trust, it's that safety, and, knowing where boundaries are and standards. So, yeah, I mean, I was just sort of trying to, that's about what I have. I mean, so you can kind of understand that if someone lacks empathy, then you're not going to get the qualities that are present in those that do have empathy. It's going to be a different type of relationship. As I say, the energy is going to be different. So if you are unhappy, then it's important to change the energy. Even if it takes you kind of, I don't want to say nudging yourself, but getting one up on yourself so that you can get it going. Get some leverage on yourself and get moving. Explore your interests. Start doing some of the things. And you can ask yourself, you can get out your recovery journal and plan your recovery dates with some interesting and inspirational things to do that you've always wanted to look for, challenge yourself, sports you might have wanted to try, things you might have wanted to build, series of things that you might have wanted to watch. So much cool things on YouTube. There was the coolest channel where the guy is building this cabin out in the middle of the woods, and they've got like professional saws and they got professional equipment, and they're just in this wilderness, just exotic and exquisite. I mean, there's so many cool things to watch on YouTube. Educated, you can read books. There's so many lovely things. Kindle, give yourself the care and exercise empathy for self and go on the adventure. Amp up the self-belief. Do things that you can speak and prime your subconscious so you can flow. Get a candle, get something beautiful in your environment that gives a pleasant scent, preferably something natural like a diffuser or sage or santalpalto wood or the cedar woods. There's other woods that you can also research that are medicinal. Also, some of the resins and amber resins and things I think are very, very healing to have on the body, the natural sort of wax scents that they are naturally harvested. And then change the story. Change the story of, and put your, insert your name here. I just, never really got up after this relationship. I mean, do you want that to be your narrative? Do you want that to be your story? Or do you want your story to be something different? Your story is, now I'm into fitness, or now I'm into cooking, or now I'm into meditating, now I'm into reading, now I'm into horseback riding, now I'm into making and sewing things, I'm into drawing. Find things that you can get your hands on and your heart in, and exercise your empathy for self so you can get the fires and passions of empathy building and restored back in you. It's like a pilot light that gets sort of smoldered, smothered, and then, dodged out, and then it's just sort of in a dark, and how do you get it back? How do you get that divine spark back? It's asking yourself the right questions. If I didn't have so much resistance in my life right now and lack of self-belief, I would really love to see myself. And then fill in 1 through 10. If I wasn't held back by so much resistiveness and apathy, I would really love to see myself doing. And then write 1 through 10. And then allow the list to live in you and allow the list to push you. Just think with the list. Rather than thinking up here, get on that paper and live through that paper. Live what it says to do. Just all of a sudden, boink, make that switch. There's an energetic switch and a breakthrough that you can make when you restore the empathy, especially if you've been in a relationship where that has been a deficit, that has been not showing up or live in your relationship. It has not been present. It has not been there, So you might have existed or been in a relationship where there was not that connection or safety or trust. It was always very unstable or fragile. And maybe that could have been the attractive thing, the adorable thing, until it turned on you. Those relationships can be very adorable, but they can also be very damaging. The problem is the damage. The problem is the, lack of empathy and how it can manifest and how it can feel. But then how do you restore it back in your life is important. And to realize then that part of restoring it is having empathy and feeling for yourself. And man, I've been through a lot, so I get it, but I don't want all my life to be in the valley moments, where you're stuck, you can't get up, you can't think, you're in the doldrums, you're in a rut, you're not going in the direction of your dreams, or you're not, living, as an adventure, you're not stimulating yourself, you're not giving yourself, those moments where you go to a concert or you do something that's, can change up where your perspective is and change your outlook, so you need to be able to jumpstart that and just change the old pattern, and give and allow that the recovery dates are really like empathy dates and, nurture dates. A great thing that I had remembered is part of the journey is these magnificent Indian saris that had been kind of cut from their beautiful fabrics. And then I think the saris are just sort of patches of, purples and golds. And it's these very lavish silk garments that are, it's almost like a quilt, but for a wall hanging. And it really absorbs a lot of the noise in the room and creates a softness. And why was I bringing that up? Oh, yes, because that, creating something like that for yourself, creating a tapestry, creating a wall hanging for yourself is a super cool way to resensitize yourself and give yourself and exhibit empathy and show warmth to yourself, show kindness to self, show purity to self, show safety to self, and show being to self. So you have to actually show it to yourself. Like you'd be presenting, have you ever been a server? Back in the day as a teenager, I was a server. I was with a really, really, really the heavy plates. Remember those big plates? They're about, 2 or 3 pounds each, filled to the brim, and you got 6 of those. I had muscles, biceps like you would not believe. Talk about running that for 12 hours. That was a lot of work. But anyway, why were we bringing that up? Oh, well, it's because it's like time, just like you would, and I would serve, wine service, bottle service, appetizers, flaming desserts, all that, hot fudge, flaming brandies. It was fun. Okay, popping the cork, celebrating people's parties. It was a lot of work. Oh my God. Talk about strenuous. Whoa, I mean, I can still feel it now. They would put anyway. So, but these recovery dates are meant to exhibit empathy for self, and so sewing those little squares for yourself, so you could go, and get some fabrics either at a fabric store, a thrift store, craft store, and create a little wall hanging for yourself, and you can put yarn or decorative, really pretty kind of ribbon that's sewn in to kind of connect the squares. And create, or a pillow. I remember making a pillow. My other friend, though, I was telling you, he showed me that wall hanging with these saris, which was a real sensitive, it's a healing art object, or getting scarves, men and women, or nice fabrics, as we're saying, are good ways to sort of give empathy and feeling back to self, and it allows it to grow and live in you, and then you share that with others, and it doesn't get depleted. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support. Peace out, y'all. Have a beautiful day. And peace in. See you next time.